Let me tell you a little bit about this guy right over here. His name is Jack Brewer. He has a master's of education, and this is his like ministries page. His bio runs for a really long time, and none of it really matters. But I want to show you one thing down here. Brewer became an ordained minister in 2019, and he's committed all the efforts of his companies to help serve the kingdom of God according to the commandments of Jesus Christ. So this guy's a businessman. I think he has athletic background and a business background. He played in the NFL at some point, but also he's a minister, and he's a very Trumpy sort of dude. And the reason I bring him up is not that long ago, he appeared on Fox because they wanted to talk to him about Donald Trump unleashing the National Guard in Washington, D.C. Because, as Trump said, crime has gotten really, really bad there. Now, when he said that, he was lying because he's Trump. And in fact, if you look at the statistics, this is from CNN, violent crime in DC has fallen in 2024 and 2025 after a spike in 2023. So, like, crime has gone down, but Trump wants to basically send ICE thugs and the National Guard to whatever blue cities he can think of by pretending crime is bad there, and then just send in his people to try to be a dictator. That's what he does. Anyway, Fox News invited Jack Brewer to come talk about all of this stuff and what should people do to deal with the issue of crime. And I would love to play you this clip from Fox, but I am pretty sure that if I play any part of that, they're just going to demonetize this entire segment. So let me read to you what he basically said, and I will share this with you so you could see it here. What Brewer said is it starts locally. First off, in these schools have to start back disciplining kids. They took the paddle out of the school and everything collapsed. We got to get the paddle back, Rachel. Listen, corporal punishment is the only way when you have a knucklehead kid that's willing to rob you or me at gunpoint with a car full of kids or anyone else. See, these things don't happen in states like Florida. We'll just pause there. Florida's notorious for not just crime, but the dumbest crimes. It's why Florida man is like a meme unto itself. So believe me, crime does happen in Florida. As Gavin Newsom has been posting all week long, other states have a much higher crime rate than California, but Trump only wants to focus on blue states and blue cities. Anyway, back to this dude. These things don't happen in states like Florida. You know why? Because if you carjack me, I'm liable to shoot you. That's a weird thing to say on live television. I'm going to scroll down here for a second. None of these kids go to church on Sunday morning. These kids don't have a fear of God. These kids don't think about heaven and hell. And that's the problem in our nation. We've let, excuse me, we've let these liberals go so deep. We've let these liberals go so deep into removing God from schools, now these kids don't have spirituality. We got to put the 10 Commandments back in our schools. We got to get the fear of God back into the children of America. Every black man in America should feel despicable about the reality that our culture right now is terrorizing the streets of America. Those are real things that Jack Brewer said during a segment on Fox. And that last line aside, where he's just blaming black men for why crime is bad, which, yikes, what the hell are you doing there? But setting aside that racism and the myth that Florida has less crime because everyone can just threaten each other with murder now. And by the way, the lie that God has been removed from schools, because God has not been removed from schools. And why the hell would you say that? That's not even true. And the idea that religious or physical, a religion itself or physical abuse is going to solve this problem. That idea, that last one, that physical abuse would solve all of this is complete BS. And this is a thing that Jack Brewer has been saying for such a long time now. It's one of the reasons he gets invited to be on these segments, because his whole thing is, I know how to fix the crime problem because I'm a black man who's risen above it. That's his whole shtick. And he says the way you fix crime is you beat kids in school. And if you did that more often, crime would stop immediately. That's what he said. And a lot of people who are like that, a lot of people who say we should bring back corporal punishment in public schools, they might cite Proverbs chapter 13, verse 24, which is the verse that basically gave us spare the rod, spoil the child. I know you know this, but hitting kids has been really popular among fundamentalist Christians. Years ago, a couple, Michael and Debbie Pearl, wrote a book called To Train Up a Child, where they basically told adults how to properly hit their kids. And it is as awful as it sounds. They said Christian parents should physically discipline kids as young as 6 months old. And they said you should do it with, and I'm quoting here, the same principles the Amish use to train their stubborn mules. But obviously, the experts who have looked at this, they never say any of this stuff. They always say the opposite. This is from the, right here, where do we go? The American Academy of Pediatrics. This is the legitimate pediatrics group, not to be confused with the similar sounding fake one run by Christians. But the AAP says spanking harms children. Corporal punishment, or the use of spanking as a disciplinary tool, increases aggression in young children in the long run and is ineffective in teaching a child responsibility and self-control. In fact, new evidence suggests that it may cause harm to the child by affecting normal brain development. So that's what the experts in pediatrics are saying. But, you know, this guy has strong opinions that whatever, let's beat kids and just see what happens. So, by the way, there's always a comment when this comes up. I think I saw it in the comment thread where someone says, I got spanked as a child and I turned out just fine. And the answer to that is no, you didn't. You turned out to be an adult who thinks hitting kids is an okay thing. So no, you're broken. There's something deeply wrong with you. But anyway, what if you don't actually hit kids but merely suggest it as a possibility? Because that's another thing Jack Brewer is suggesting here. As any decent teacher could tell you, and listen, I spent over 7 years in a classroom. If your classroom is so chaotic that you think physical discipline is your only solution, or the threat of it is the only solution, you got to find a different job because teaching ain't for you. And by the way, if you think threatening kids with abuse is the only way to maintain order, you're just a bad person, period. What the hell are you doing? So none of those facts that I have just shared with you are accepted by right-wing abuse enthusiasts like Jack Brewer. Like, hitting a kid with a paddle is not going to stop that kid from robbing you when he gets older. If anything, what it teaches him is that violence is always a possible solution to do the thing you want to do. By the way, while younger generations are not into organized religion as much these days, the lack of forced Christianity in schools, which is something Jack Brewer wants, that's not the cause of societal problems. All right. I will say, forced Christianity, Jack Brewer said we should bring back the 10 Commandments in schools, bring back prayer in schools. Christianity in schools has not been a thing since like the early 1960s, where you force a religion onto people. And schools in red states, where the legislatures are passing 10 Commandments laws and trying to inject the Bibles in classrooms, they're usually the worst states in the country when it comes to education. Like, I would argue kids today have a far more nuanced understanding of religion than prior generations, largely because they've grown up in diverse environments. They have seen the harm that religious nutcases in government can cause. So we are in a more dangerous society today because of people who reject evidence in favor of religious mythology and conspiracy theories, and they love their guns, as we saw this week. That's way more dangerous to our society than the lack of religion. Anyway, I wanted to show you one other thing, because Brewer has been saying shit like this for a really long time now. And in 2022, he was invited to speak to a House Judiciary Committee panel during a session on how to end gun violence. And they brought in this guy to talk about gun violence. And what do you think he said was the solution to stopping like mass shootings? Let me play you a clip from that that panel that he spoke on.
If we are serious about addressing gun violence, then we need to first get serious about bringing the paddle and prayer back to our public schools. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will never depart from it.
It's the same shit. It's the same stuff he's been saying for years now. Violence and religion are his go-to solutions in a world that has been made worse by violence and religion. This guy doesn't want to actually help children. He wants to control them. He wants to dominate them. He wants to indoctrinate them. And he doesn't care if spanking kids or hitting kids breeds trauma and resentment and more violence. While mandatory religion in public schools, and of course mandatory religion would always be Christianity, that would undermine all the freedoms he claims to want to protect. Like, there are plenty of Bibles and religion in churches, but guess what? As we saw this week, that does not stop bad things from happening. That's not a solution to anything. Obedience should be learned. If you want to earn obedience, obedience should be earned through mutual respect, critical thinking, not fear. If you're using fear to win obedience, you're a bad person. But this is what happens when you're promoting an authoritarian government. Fear is your best weapon. It explains everything Trump is doing by sending his ghouls to blue cities to terrorize people as much as humanly possible. It's what he's doing to immigrants right now. Like, you use force to beat people into submission because you cannot earn it on your own. I mean, just was it this week that Donald Trump signed an executive order saying they would try to prosecute people who burned the American flag? Like, first of all, the First Amendment says you're allowed to do that. The Supreme Court has said you are allowed to do that. But if you want people to respect the country, you don't force that sort of rule upon them that says we're going to put you in jail if you symbolically burn a flag. Like, you give them a reason to actually love the country so they wouldn't want to do that. But none of that ever crosses the mind of Republicans these days. So the fact that guys like Brewer are called on to speak to Congress, to go on Fox and tell people what the solution to violence is, and his answer is always, let's beat children from a young age. Let's shove Jesus into all their faces. Like, that's always their solution to crime and poverty and broken communities. And it all stems from this myth that America's problems come from a lack of God or a lack of abuse instead of a lack of justice and opportunity and equality. And I wish some of these people who are in his vicinity or the interviewers questioning him, like, we would be so much better off if they called him out on that stuff. But he doesn't appear on real news stations. He appears on Fox, or he appears in front of Republican panels where he can just say whatever he wants and not get grilled on it. But I just wanted to share that with you because he's a very horrible person. All right, what other questions we got here? Thank you for that donation, Olivia. Damn, those people love abusing children. Yeah, and by those people, who are we talking about? Republicans, religious zealots? I mean, take your pick. It's all the same at this point. The cognitive dissonance of Christians is amazing. They say they're all loving while abusing innocent children. Yeah, I mean, the hypocrisy that you point out there. They always say our God, our religion is about love. And then there's a laundry list of all the things conservative Christians do that are the opposite of that, right? Like how many women they've put in literal life-threatening situations because of their zealotry on abortion. How many LGBTQ people they have terrorized because they just can't accept anything out of like a cisgender binary system. I mean, yeah, the history of Christianity, especially conservative Christianity, is that they claim to be about love, and then their actions say the exact opposite. And their voting record says the exact opposite now. Actually reading the transcript makes the scary absurdity obvious. Yeah. When you just see it on paper, it's like, who the hell would say something like this And again, Brewer is a good speaker. He speaks with conviction. It's why conservatives might want this guy to speak places. But then you look at what he actually says, and it's horrifying. By the way, Trump does the exact same thing. Like, he'll do these 3-hour long, everyone love me, say nice things about me cabinet meetings. But then you look at the transcripts of how he answers certain questions, and it's all rambling, and he says insane stuff. And when you read the transcript, it never makes any sense. Like, kudos to Gavin Newsom, who I'm not really a fan of, for just imitating Trump in his tweets and sounding like a crazy person, because, yeah, that is what Trump is like, and we shouldn't get used to that. Because the 10 commandments in churches stop adultery. They also don't stop all the other commandments either. People lie, cheat, steal in churches all the time. They murder people, even if they are religious. The 10 commandments are not going to stop people from doing the thing they were going to do. It doesn't work in churches. It's why they don't spend much time trying to argue that we should put up 10 commandments monuments inside of churches, because they don't care. They just want to do something symbolic and performative. That's why they want them in public schools and outside courthouses.